What's up, my fellow comic book readers? Guys, we're gonna go over. I read 8 Marvel comics between last night and today, this morning more specifically. We're gonna go over them a little bit more in depth than what I did in my short. You know, I do my 3-minute reviews where I'm quick with it, and then I do the long review here on YouTube. So, I hope I'm not too long-winded. I do give a little bit of spoilers sometimes in my longer reviews. So, if you don't want any spoilers, maybe stick to my shorts. I'm not going to give away the whole story, just like a little bit of it to make you maybe interested or to decide that you don't want to read it. But we're going to start with Red Hulk number 7. This has been my favorite tie-in. I think this issue didn't really progress it as my favorite tie-in, but it was definitely a solid issue. It had to do with this guy. I can't remember the name. It's a captain. I can't remember his name. But he's got Red Hulk captive right now, and he's doing tests on him in a secret location. And Machine Man, I think it's Machine Man and Deathlock are running from the law and trying to find Red Hulk so they can capture him. Red Hulk has a person on the inside that he's trying to convince that this guy is a bad guy. But, right now this guy's working for the American government, and I think he's a bad guy, Obviously, he believes in Dr. Doom, so how good can he be? And then Red Hulk going on, and right now Red Hulk has a collar that's stopping him from turning into his powers or whatever. But I think issue 8 is going to have a lot to do with a prison outbreak and, a lot going on. So I'm looking forward to number 8, and this continues. I think this is still my favorite ongoing, One World Under Doom story. Next up, we got Deadpool and Wolverines and Deadpools. This is issue number 2. They were sent together on a mission to go find out why orphans were being taken, not orphans, just kids in general in this village were being taken in the middle of the night, right? And then they come across the Shadow King, and the Shadow King is trying to get a new, a shell, I guess you could call him. A new person to take hostage mentally, go inside of them and take over their body. And, what better what better of a target than a superhero? And obviously he's going for kids. So Wolverine brought his daughter and Deadpool brought his daughter. So you can put 2 and 2 together. One of them gets taken captive for, the issue kind of ends on a cliffhanger. But I thought this was a really great issue. You got a little bit of humor going back and forth between the daughters, which is awesome because, you already got Deadpool and Wolverine. Wolverine's this very serious person, and Deadpool can't help but not be serious, right? And Wolverine's playing the part. Deadpool does a lot of what is it called? Breaking the fourth wall, where he's no one's going to read this comic if you guys keep talking like that. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I thought this was another great issue. I'm going to continue reading this. I'm subscribed to it, obviously, so I'm going to keep picking it up. It's been great so far, and 2 issues deep. Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, issue number 11. This issue, it didn't do anything to move the story. I will say at the end, somebody gets revived. So that definitely moves the story. It kind of was like a recap of what's going on in Fist of Khonshu right now. And then, the story's kind of being told, this issue is kind of written from the point of view of somebody that they announce who it is at the end. And it's not this big, oh my God, that person. But it's somebody that's not been in the first 10 issues. So I thought that was pretty cool. Somebody, I'm sure they're important to Moon Knight. I know they're important to Moon Knight. But this issue just didn't do a whole lot for me. I think this is probably my least favorite issue of Marvel that I read, which is saying a lot because it wasn't horrible, right? I enjoyed the read. It just didn't do anything as far as moving the needle. And it didn't really have a whole, again, except for the big, sword in the ground moment at the end. This didn't really have a whole lot to move the needle. I keep saying move the needle, but for the progression of the story. Daredevil Cold Day in Hell, issue 3 of 3. This was the finale. This went hard, man. Daredevil is fighting Bullseye, and Bullseye has the Punisher captive and all of his limbs cut off. And then Daredevil and Bullseye are scheduled to like meet each other and do this final battle, and Bullseye has some, bomb in the city and yada, yada, yada. And then Bullseye has Punisher captive, like tied to the wall, and then he like cuts him down off the wall and then walks out of the room and tells his goons to go in there and go off the guy, right? Well, Punisher don't just give up, you know what I mean? So Punisher does this thing, and then I don't want to give away too much of the story, but this was a banger one. I definitely recommend this. If you haven't picked up the series, I would start now. Before I was rudely interrupted. Next up, we got Captain America, issue number 2. This is the new Chip Zdarsky run that's going on, and I thought this is probably, out of the 8 Marvels that I read, and if you watch my review for issue number 1, I did not like issue number 1. It didn't work for me. I won't say it was a bad comic. It just didn't work for me, right? But issue number 2, and maybe because I'm a veteran of Afghanistan, Iraq, right? So maybe I have like a little bit of a soft spot for like the story being told and like the beef with the government and how they're handling situations, and like you don't feel like you're a difference maker. You feel like you're just over there fighting somebody else's war type shit, right? That is all encompassed in this. In Captain America, Steve Rogers and the New Age Captain America are working together, and they just have different points of view on like who the good guy is and who the bad guy is, and how they should handle the situations, and yada yada yada. They are both good guys. They're both fighting the same battles for the betterment of the world, right? But one has this like pessimistic, like, we just need to stick to what our mission is. Anything else could jeopardize the world and blah, 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 blah. And one is like, no, this guy's a bad guy. We need to take care of him. And then you kind of get the sense of like, we can't take care of him because we weren't told to take care of him. Don't do anything. You know what I mean? So that mindset, this was a fantastic issue. I definitely, last week I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep reading it because issue 1 just didn't work for me. Issue 2 bumped it way up for me. Issue 2 was just absolute amazing. Absolutely amazing. Then we got Chris Claremont's Wolverine one-shot. I didn't know what this was at first. Obviously, I knew it was a Wolverine comic. And it does have to do with Wolverine, but I really felt like it was more like, I felt like Sabretooth was the focal point, and Wolverine and the Xmen, Nightcrawler and Storm and Rogue and Colossus and Kitty Hawk are all fighting Sabretooth, and Sabretooth is whooping their ass. He whoops their ass like throughout the whole issue, you know what I mean? But I think this is like more of a throwback, maybe like 80s and 90s Marvel stories, one shot. I thought it was a cool like little story, but it didn't really like do anything for any storyline that's ongoing, or I haven't read old school Wolverine stuff, so I'm not sure if it applies more to that, but it's just a cool little one-shot story. If you're a Wolverine fan, I think you'll like this. If you're an X-Men fan, I think you'll like this. If you're a Sabretooth fan, I think you'll like this. But if you're just like trying to get into comics, maybe this is a good little one-shot to get you find out if you like the stuff. But again, doesn't do anything for any ongoing stories. Speaking of ongoing stories, One World Under Doom, issue number 6. I watched some reviews before I read this, and all the reviews were negative. They were like, oh, it's just Dr. Doom and Reed Richards sitting on a stage and debating over the world and blah, 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 blah. And that is true. But there's so much more going on in this. The team that has been behind the scenes, they broke into Latveria, and, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Black Widow, all that gang. They break into Latveria and find Dr. Doom's secret of why he is the bad guy, right? And they are, announcing it to the world. And in the middle of Dr. Doom and Reed Richards' debate, first off, during the debate, Dr. Doom is whooping Reed Richards' ass verbally, right? He's bringing up so many good points on why superheroes are the real reason that the world is still struggling. And I was convinced. I was like, dude, is Doctor Doom the new, like, the superhero for Marvel? Like, he's really, like, giving it to Reed Richards, you know what I mean? And, like, every point I was like, yes, yeah. Like, for example, he's like, you, Reed Richards, you have created stuff that would fix the world and then some. And he's like, and what do you do with it? You keep it in the smallest circle possible, your own family. You don't share it with anybody. And he's like, Dr. Pym, Hank Pym, could solve world hunger in a single day. But does he? No. He uses his technology to make himself bigger, and that's it. And it's like, bro, Dr. Doom was on some shit. But I thought this was a great issue. I really enjoyed it. And then last and close to least, it wasn't a bad issue. I really feel like this one, this run, Storm is pretty good. I just think there's so many name drops in this. I don't know who like 90% of the names are. You know what I mean? They have a bunch of like 3 or 4 panels for a superhero, and then 3 or 4 panels for another superhero, 3 or 4 panels for another superhero. So it's like, Storm is the focal point of the comic, so you don't get like, you don't feel like, it's just like a glamour shot. Storm is the focal point, but there's so many name drops that unless you've been reading Marvel for centuries, you don't know who half these fucking people are. Or maybe you do and I'm just way behind. I don't know. But, like, it's taken away from it for me. And I wish they would just focus on Storm battling. But this really, like, again, I said it before. I don't remember what issue I said it on. But this just felt like it's for the power scalers. If you're a power scaler and you're like, oh, what Marvel god could do this, blah, 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 blah. They're constantly pointing out, they're like, oh, this god is stronger than this one. And this god is stronger than this one. And this god is stronger. And it's like, dude, just give me Storm. You know what I mean? But, guys, those are my Marvel comics. I know I said a couple negative things about, like, Storm, Wolverine, Daredevil, Moon Knight, but I really actually enjoyed all 8 of those comics, and I definitely recommend them, especially if you're a Marvel fan. But even if you're not going to read Marvel today, pick something up, read it, stimulate that mind, and have a great day.